Tonight we begin by stepping into the echoing stone corridors of a medieval castle. Close your eyes and imagine the air heavy, damp, and smelling faintly of smoke. The only light comes from a few flickering torches, casting long dancing shadows against the rough masonry, while outside, the wind whistles through the narrow arrow slits. A lonely sound in the deep dark dot, we often view these structures through a romantic lens, picturing grand feasts and roaring hearths. But strip away the tapestry, and the reality of a winter's night is stark. Here, the enemy is not a rival knight waiting at the gates. It is the relentless seeping cold. How did they find rest within these ice-cold walls without succumbing to the freeze? That is the quiet mystery we will unravel together. But as we wander back into this frozen past, I want you to feel the contrast. Notice the warmth of your own room. Pull your heavy covers up a little higher. You are safe from the draft. The stone walls are just a memory now. You can let go. You can rest. Imagine yourself standing in the center of the great hall, not in the golden light of a summer feast, but in the deep, silent gray of midwinter, realizing that this fortress is less a home and more a vast stone refrigerator built to keep the world at bay. You are wrapped in layers rough wool against your skin, a tunic of heavy linen, and over it all, a cloak lined with dense beaver pelt that brushes softly against your neck. Yet, despite the weight of these furs, you can feel the chill seeking you out. It does not bite sharply like the wind outside. Rather, it radiates from the walls themselves, a slow, patient cold that seems to have lived in these stones for centuries. Reach out in your mind's eye and place your palm against the masonry. The stone is rough, uneven, and impossibly cold. It feels damp, not with water, but with the memory of the earth from which it was quarried. This is the paradox of the castle, the great irony of medieval safety. These walls were built to be impenetrable. They are 6, perhaps 10 feet thick, constructed to shrug off the blows of battering rams and the impact of trebuchet stones. But in their quest to keep out the enemy, they have also succeeded in keeping out the sun. The physics of this place are simple and unrelenting. You are standing inside a massive thermal battery. All summer long, these stones absorbed the heat of the day. But that warmth fled months ago, leaching out into the autumn air. Now, the walls have settled into the temperature of the deep ground. A constant, unyielding chill, like a basement that has forgotten the sky. When the hearth fires roar in the center of the room, sending sparks drifting up toward the blackened rafters, the heat does not stay. The stone swallows it whole. You can stand before the fire, your face flushing with heat, while your back remains frozen, the warmth sucked away into the darkness behind you. Walk slowly now, away from the hearth, toward the outer wall. Your boots make a soft, rhythmic scuffing sound on the flagstones. The air here feels different. It moves. You are approaching one of the narrow windows, the arrow loops that pierce the fortress shell. From the outside, these slits are barely visible, mere scratches in the rock face. But here, from the inside, you can see their true shape. The wall tapers inward, widening to allow an archer to draw his bow. This design saved lives during sieges, but tonight it turns the castle into a wind tunnel. Listen to the sound of it. Outside, the wind is a wild, chaotic force, buffeting the hillside. But as it hits the castle walls, it is forced through these narrow stone throats. The air compresses, accelerating as it squeezes through the slit. It enters the room not as a breeze, but as a focused jet of freezing air, carrying the scent of snow and wet pine. It whistles low and mournful, a constant haunting note that plays beneath the silence. Even with heavy tapestries hung over the openings, thick woven scenes of hunts and battles swaying gently in the draught, the cold finds a way through. It pools on the floor, an invisible tide rising around your ankles. There is a heaviness to the atmosphere here, a density that you can taste, because the stone is so cold and the air inside is slightly warmer from your breath in the dying fire. The room exists in a perpetual state of condensation. The castle breathes just as you do, but its breath is damp and heavy. Watch as you exhale. A cloud of white mist forms in front of your face, lingering for a moment before dissolving into the shadows. You are living inside a cloud. The moisture clings to everything. Run your fingers along the wooden edge of a trestle table. It feels slick, cool to the touch. The iron bands on the doors sweat small beads of water that gather and roll slowly down to the rush-covered floor. Papers and parchments curl at the edges, softening in the humidity. The smell is distinct, a blend of wood smoke, old wool, and the mineral scent of wet limestone. It is the smell of a cave, deep underground, where the weather never changes. And yet, as you pull your cloak tighter, there is a strange comfort in this severity. The cold is the price of your safety. The same thick walls that steal the warmth from the air are the reason you can sleep without fear of the arrow or the torch. The wind that screams through the arrow slits reminds you that you are high up, perched on a crag or a hill, commanding the landscape, untouchable by the chaos below. The castle does not care for your comfort. It was not built to swaddle you. It was built to outlast you. It is a machine of survival, an architecture of endurance. And as you stand there, watching the candlelight flicker in the draught, you become part of that endurance. You are a small, warm spark in the belly of the mountain. Let the cold settle around you now, not as an enemy, but as a blanket of stillness. The world outside is frozen and frantic, but in here, in this stone refrigerator, time moves slower. The cold preserves. It holds the silence in place. You can feel the weight of the years in the damp air. A heavy, quiet peace that asks for nothing but your breath, rising and falling, fogging the air for a second, and then vanishing into the dark, stone night. Step through the heavy oak doors and let the wall of heat hit you. For tonight, you are taking part in the oldest survival strategy of the Winter Court, the Great Hall Ritual, a ceremony not of prayer, but of borrowed warmth. Here, the air is not empty. It is a physical weight, thick with the memory of the evening's feast. You can taste the atmosphere on your tongue. It is a dense, savory fog composed of roasted venison, a sharp tongue of scorched fat dripping into the flames, and the earthy, resinous scent of pine logs cracking open in the central hearth. Above you, the high rafters are lost in a haze of wood smoke that hovers like a gray ceiling, trapping the heat below. It is a sensory overload, but in the depths of winter, this heaviness feels like a blanket. Look around you. The room is crowded, yet there is a deep, drowsy comfort in the proximity of so many others. This is the strategy of gathering. In a stone fortress that leaches heat from the air, bodies are the most reliable furnaces. You are all huddled here, lords, servants, hounds, and guards packed onto the long wooden benches, shoulders brushing against shoulders. The distinctions of rank have melted away, replaced by the universal need to not be cold. You find your place near the fire, turning your back to the blaze. This is a deliberate act. You are charging yourself, soaking up the thermal energy like a stone left in the sun. You let the heat press through the layers of your tunic, through the linen, until it settles deep in your muscles. The roar of the fire is a constant, low-frequency rumble, a sound that vibrates in your chest, drowning out the whistle of the wind beyond the walls. For hours, this has been your world, the golden light of tallow candles, the murmur of low voices telling stories you have heard a dozen times, the clatter of iron knives on wood. It feels permanent, as if this pocket of warmth is the only thing that exists. But then, the inevitable shift begins. Watch the fire. The great logs, once towering and fierce, have collapsed into a glowing heap of orange pulse and gray ash. The flames are lower now, lazily licking at the air. The candles are guttering, pools of wax dripping onto the trestle tables. The noise of the hall fades, replaced by the heavy, rhythmic breathing of hounds asleep in the rushes, and the scraping of benches being pushed back. Quiet dread begins to settle in your stomach. It is the anticipation of the transition. You know what lies beyond these doors. You know that the castle, in its vast, indifferent silence, is waiting to reclaim you. You delay the moment. You pretend to adjust your boot, or you take one last sip of watered wine, just to stay within the circle of light for another minute. But the ritual must end. You stand up. The heat you have gathered feels fragile now, a temporary shield against the dark. You wrap your heavy wool cloak tight around your throat, pulling the hood up until it shadows your face. You nod to the others, a silent acknowledgement of the journey you all must make, and turn away from the hearth. Crossing the threshold of the great hall is physically shocking. The moment the heavy doors close behind you, the sound of the fire is cut off, instantly replaced by the vast, hollow silence of the corridor. The temperature drops 20 degrees in a single step. The air here is thin and sharp, smelling of damp stone and cold iron. You begin the climb. The spiral staircase is narrow, a tight coil of masonry winding up into the dark. It acts as a chimney for the cold, drawing the freezing draft down from the roof. Your hand brushes the central pillar of stone, the newel post, and it sucks the warmth. From your fingertips instantly. Round and round you go, your footsteps echoing softly, a rhythmic scuffing against the uneven steps. You are careful where you place your feet. The stone is worn smooth in the center, hipped by centuries of others who have made the same cold climb to bed. The shadows stretch long and distorted from your candle, dancing against walls that glisten with moisture. At last, you reach your chamber. It is a small room, sparse and shadowed. The air is so still, it feels frozen in time. You can see your breath, a faint ghost in the candlelight. There is no fire here, only the residual cold of the day. Quickly now, you strip off the outer layers, the heavy wool falling to the floor with a soft thud. You move with the urgency of someone fleeing a storm. Diving beneath the mound of furs and quilts on your bed, you lie still, curled tight, waiting. Slowly, the heat you stored in the great hall begins to radiate out, trapped by the covers. The shivering stops. The heavy silence of the stone room, once threatening, now feels protective. You are a small island of warmth in a sea of stone. The feast is a memory. The fire is an echo. There is only the dark, the quiet, and the heavy, dreamless sleep of history closing in. Step away from the biting draft of the corridor and feel the ground suddenly soften beneath your boots. For here, inside the sanctuary of the bedchamber, the stone has been dressed for winter. You are no longer walking on the unforgiving hardness of granite or limestone. Instead, you are walking on a memory of summer. The floor is hidden beneath a thick, chaotic layer of rushes, dried river reeds, and long grasses that were harvested when the sun was high and the days were long. They have been scattered here, ankle deep, to create a barrier between you and the deep geological chill of the earth below. Listen to the sound of your movement. With every step, there is a soft, brittle crunch, a dry rustling that whispers through the quiet room. It is a satisfying sound, the sound of insulation. It tells you that there is distance between your skin and the cold, but there is more to this floor than mere dried grass. Kneel down for a moment. The air down here, close to the ground, carries a complex, heavy perfume. Scattered among the reeds are handfuls of herbs, dried and brittle now, but still potent. You catch the sharp, clean scent of lavender, the sweet, almond-like drift of meadowsweet, and the earthy tongue of woodruff. This is the castle's passive defense against the damp. In a world where the air is always wet and bodies are rarely fully clean, the floor becomes a diffuser. Every time you cross the room, your boots crush these dried leaves, releasing little ghosts of scent into the stagnant air. It is a smell that defines the medieval night, a blend of hay, dried flowers, and the underlying, inevitable scent of dust. It smells like a barn, perhaps, but a safe one, a nest built by human hands against the wildness outside. Now, look to the walls. If you were to strip this room bare, it would feel like a tomb. The stone walls of a castle are not solid barriers. They are porous sponges. They drink the rain and hold the moisture. On a night like this, if you were to touch the naked masonry, your fingers would come away wet. The stone sweats. It weeps with the condensation of the warmth inside, meeting the freezing air outside not to live here. You must clothe the room, just as you clothe your body. Surrounding you, hanging from iron hooks near the ceiling, are heavy tapestries. These are not merely decorations. They are woolen armor. They are thick, heavy, and lined with linen, woven tight to trap the air. See how they hang not flush against the wall, but suspended a few inches away? That gap is intentional. It creates a pocket of dead air, a thermal break that prevents the stone from sucking the heat out of the room walk toward the nearest tapestry. It depicts a hunting scene, the figures faded by years of smoke and sunlight. A stag, a hound, a hunter with a bow. In the flickering light of your single candle, the figures seem to tremble. The fabric sways gently, a slow, rhythmic breathing. This movement might seem ghostly, but it is just the physics of the castle at work. The draft is moving behind the tapestry, trapped between the wool and the wet wall. The fabric is catching the wind so that you don't have to. It absorbs the moisture that would otherwise cling to your bedclothes. Reach out and touch the wool. It feels coarse, slightly oily to the touch, lanolin left in the fibers to repel water. It feels heavy and substantial. There is a profound sense of enclosure here. The room feels smaller, softer, and quieter than the hall outside. The sharp echoes of the stone fortress are muffled by the wool and the rushes. The acoustics are deadened, creating a hush that feels like a physical weight lifting from your ears. The air in here is not fresh, but it is comforting. It is a tactile atmosphere, humid, still, and smelling of old wool, dried earth, and beeswax. It is the smell of containment. Outside, the wind is tearing at the towers, screaming over the battlements, searching for a way in. But here, surrounded by the dried remnants of the meadow and the woven stories on the walls, the storm is just a rumor, Dot. You are standing inside a box of insulation, a soft, dry pocket carved out of the wet gray world. The dampness is still there, lingering in the corners, a reminder of the stone's patience. But for tonight, the rushes hold the cold at bay, and the tapestries stand guard against the weeping walls. You are wrapped in the architecture of warmth, safe within the wool and the reeds, ready to let the silence take you. Rise now, and approach the centerpiece of your sanctuary. For in the center of the room stands not merely a piece of furniture, but a structure as imposing and vital as the castle walls themselves. The fortress within a fortress. Here stands the great four-poster bed. In the dim light of your dying candle, it resembles a small house built inside the larger chamber. Its pillars are carved from the heart of old oaks, darkened by beeswax and age, thick as the trunk of a sapling. They rise up toward the ceiling, supporting a heavy wooden canopy that hangs over the mattress like a protective sky. This is not designed for aesthetic beauty, though it is beautiful in its strength. It is designed for survival, Dot. You reach out to the heavy curtains that hang from the canopy frame. They are made of dense, felted wool, perhaps dyed a deep forest green or a faded crimson. They are heavy to the touch, carrying the weight of a winter coat. With a gentle tug, you pull them closed. Listen to the sound they make, the wooden rings sliding over the wooden pole. A soft, hollow clatter that signals the end of the day. Clack, clack, and then Silence dot as the curtains meet. You have effectively sealed yourself inside a box. You have constructed a microclimate. This is a profound piece of medieval engineering. The castle bedroom is large, drafty, and impossible to heat fully. The heat from the fireplace dissipates into the high corners, lost to the stone. But inside the curtains, the physics change. This space, no larger than a few cubic feet, is the only place in the world where you can truly control the weather. As you lie there, the heat from your body radiates outward. In the open room, it would be stolen by the air. Here, it strikes the thick wool curtains and is reflected back to you. With every breath you take, the air inside this small enclosure warms by a fraction of a degree. Within an hour, while the water in the basin across the room turns to ice, the air inside your canopy will be temperate, soft, and still, you climb up, for these beds are high, keeping you well above the drafts that snake along the floorboards, and you settle into the mattress. Beneath you lies the true luxury of the age. You are not resting on the ground. You are floating on a cloud of feathers. This is a tick of massive linen sack stuffed with pounds of goose down. It is an investment of immense value, a possession listed in wills and passed down through generations. God, feel how it accepts you. The feathers displace beneath your weight, rising up around your hips and shoulders to cradle you. There is no resistance, only a gentle yielding. It is silent. There is no rustling, only the soft, breathless sigh of air escaping the linen as you sink deeper. The mattress molds to your shape, holding the heat against your skin, eliminating the spaces where the cold might hide. Allow your mind to drift for a moment, past the heavy wool curtains, out of the castle, and down into the village below to understand the contrast of this comfort. For the peasant, sleep is a louder, earthier affair. They do not know the silence of the feather bed. They sleep on a tick filled with straw or dried heather. Imagine that sensation for a moment. The straw is firm and unyielding. It creates a mattress that is alive with sound. Every time a sleeper turns, the dried stalks crunch and rustle, a sound like dry leaves blowing across a stone path. It is a prickly, uneven surface where the ends of the stalks might poke through the coarse hemp cover. It smells different too. While your bed smells of lavender and clean linen, the straw mattress smells of the harvest of dust, dried earth, and the fields in late autumn. It connects the sleeper to the ground, a reminder of the labor that fills their days. It is a humble bed, warm in its own way, but it offers no escape from the hardness of the world. But you are suspended. Here, inside your woolen tent, the world has no edges. The darkness is absolute. The heavy curtains block out the last faint glow of the embers in the fireplace, and they block out the shadows that dance in the corners of the room. There is no visual stimulation, nothing to remind you of the stone walls or the winter storm. You are floating in a void of warmth. Pull the heavy quilt up to your chin. It is lined with fur, perhaps squirrel or rabbit, soft against your neck. The linen sheets, cold when you first slid between them, have now warmed to match your temperature. The air you breathe is moist and comfortable. The bed frame, that massive skeleton of oak, stands guard. The canopy above prevents the dust of the ceiling from falling upon you. The curtains hold the stillness in place. You are safe in this wooden womb, hidden away from the wind, hidden away from the history being written outside. There is nothing left to do. The fortress is secure. The bridge is drawn up. The curtains are closed. You are the warm center of a cold world, and the only task remaining is to let the silence carry you away. Sink back, and let the architecture of the bed collapse gently upon you. For tonight, you are not merely covering yourself. You are burying yourself beneath a carefully engineered geography of warmth. The process of covering up is slow, a ritual of layering that feels less like making a bed and more like dressing a wound. You are constructing a shield against the night, one layer at a time. And the first layer, the one that meets your skin, is a shock of purity. The sheets are linen, woven from flax that was harvested in the late summer fields, soaked in the river, and beaten until it became soft and pale. In a world of rough wool and heavy furs, this is the one smooth thing. Feel how cool it is against your legs as you slide down. It has a crispness, a clean, dry texture that feels like water that has learned to be solid. This is the foundation of the textile sandwich. It is a piece of subtle engineering. You see, the body sweats even in the cold. A fever dream, a heavy meal, or simply the heat of the bed can create moisture. If you were wrapped directly in wool, that moisture would linger, turning clammy and cold. But the linen is intelligent. It drinks the moisture from your skin, wicking it away, keeping you dry. It is the cooling layer before the warming begins, a breath of fresh air trapped between you and the weight above. And there is so much weight above. Over the linen comes the wool. These are not the fluffy, air-filled duvets of the future. These are blankets in the truest sense-dense, woven mats of sheep's wool. They are heavy. When you pull them up, you have to use both hands. They settle over you with a distinct physical pressure, like a great, gentle hand pressing you down into the mattress. This wool still carries the memory of the animal it came from. If you bury your nose in the covers, past the scent of the lavender on the floor, you can smell the faint, oily scent of lanolin. It is a waterproof, windproof scent. It smells of the hills and the rain. This layer is the engine of the bed. It traps the heat your body generates, catching it in the crimped fibers of the wool, refusing to let it escape into the canopy above. It is a thermal battery, charging slowly through the night. But in the depths of winter, wool alone is not enough. You need the final seal. Reach down to the foot of the bed and pull up the coverlet. This is the layer of status, the layer of the wild. It is a heavy pelt, perhaps the thick, shaggy fur of a bear, or a patchwork of fox skins, or the dense, dark luxury of sable. This is the heaviest layer of all. As you draw it up to your chin, the bed ceases to be a piece of furniture and becomes a burrow. The fur creates a final, impermeable barrier. No draft can penetrate this. The air inside the bed is now completely yours, separated from the castle by inches of flax, fleece, and fur. Lie still now and feel the result of this engineering. You are pinned down. The sensation is profound. The combined weight of the linen, the multiple wool blankets, and the fur coverlet is significant. It presses against your chest, your hips, your ankles. It restricts your movement, but not in a way that feels trapping. It feels like an embrace not in this era. You do not toss and turn. The bed does not allow it. The weight forces you into stillness. It creates a kind of benevolent paralysis. You are anchored to the mattress, held in place by the textiles. There is a deep, primal safety in this feeling of being held down. It signals to your nervous system that you are secure, that you do not need to be alert, that you do not need to move. You are a fossil encased in rock, but the rock is soft and warm. The contrast is delicious. Your skin is touching the cool, smooth linen, but your body is sensing the massive heat retention of the wool. You are dry, yet you are drowning in warmth. You are immobile, yet you are floating on feathers. The cold air of the room presses against the outside of the curtains, and the draft searches for a way in, but it is stopped by the fur. The heat tries to rise and leave you, but it is caught by the wool. You are suspended in the perfect middle ground, the balance point of survival. This is how the night passes, not with the lightness of modern sleep, but with the heavy, heavy comfort of the past. The weight of the blankets mimics the weight of the stone walls outside, solid, protective, and enduring. You are insulated. You are hidden. You are safe under the crushing, beautiful weight of history. Before you surrender fully to the heavy sanctuary of the bed, you must first attend to the final layer of defense, the soft, white armor you wear against your own skin. There is a persistent, romantic myth that the people of this time slept naked, that they slipped between the furs with nothing but their skin to brave the draft. But to sleep exposed in a room of stone is to invite the frost into your marrow. In this age, nakedness is a vulnerability you cannot afford. To be naked is to be defenseless against the air that prowls the room. Instead, you are dressed for sleep with the same intention as a soldier dressing for battle. Though your enemies are not swords, but the damp and the cold, you stand by the side of the bed, the stone floor cold beneath your feet, and you are wearing your chemise. This is a long, loose tunic of linen, worn soft by countless washings. It hangs from your shoulders all the way to your ankles, a pale ghost in the dim light. Feel the texture of it. It is not silky, but it is smooth, polished by the friction of your days. It holds a faint, clean scent of wood ash and soapwork. This garment is the boundary line. It protects the expensive furs of the bed from the oils of your skin, and it protects your skin from the scratch of the wool blankets. It is a second skin, breathable yet substantial, creating a thin, trapped layer of warm air right against your body. It billows slightly as you move, a gentle, shifting caress that reminds you that you are covered. But the most vital piece of armor is not for your body. It is for your mind, and it sits upon your head. Reach up and touch the fabric that covers your hair and ears. You are wearing a coif, a close-fitting cap of white linen that ties securely beneath your chin. To the modern eye, this might seem a quaint or even comical accessory. But here, in the deep winter of history, it is a medical necessity. The physicians of this age, wise in their own way, believe that the head is a chimney. They teach that the body's vital heat, the very spirit of life, rises upward like smoke. If you leave the top of the chimney open to the cold night air, your warmth will escape, fleeing into the rafters, leaving you weakened and prone to the sicknesses of the lungs. The cold air, they whisper, can enter through the ears, chilling the thoughts and disturbing the balance of the HUMORS dot. So, you tie the strings. Feel the gentle pressure under your jaw. It is a grounding sensation. The cap hugs your skull, covering your ears completely. It muffles the sound of the wind outside, dulling the sharp edges of the world. It creates a sense of containment. You are sealing yourself in. By covering your head, you are telling your body that the energy is to be kept inside, preserved, hoarded for the work of restoration. And the binding does not stop there. Look down at your feet. They are not bare. You have wrapped them in clouts, squares of woolen cloth, warmed by the fire before you brought them to the bedside. You have wound them around your ankles and toes, securing them like bandages. The sensation is one of firm, compassionate pressure. Your extremities, so often the first to feel the bite of the winter, are now SWADDLED. Stand there for a moment in the candlelight and visualize what you have become. You are no longer a person moving freely through the world. You are a parcel. You are bound at the ankles, draped in long linen, and capped at the head. You have been swaddled like an infant, or perhaps like a precious artifact prepared for transport. There is a profound psychological comfort in this restriction. The tightness of the coif, the weight of the chemise, the binding of the feet, they all work together to hold you together, in a life that is often hard, where labor is heavy and the future is uncertain. This sensation of being bound is a relief. It takes away the need to hold yourself up. You have surrendered your mobility for warmth. You have traded the freedom of movement for the promise of safety. You are a sealed vessel. The cold may prowl the room, touching the stone walls and the heavy tapestries, but it cannot touch you. You are insulated, wrapped, and protected. You are ready to be placed into the waiting darkness of the bed. A white, silent package delivered safely into the keeping of the night. Before you slip into the final dark, watch as a circle of fire is brought to the bedside. A brief and necessary intervention of artificial heat against the gathered cold dot. It arrives in the hands of a servant, a dull glow moving through the shadows. The object is simple, yet in this moment, it is the most precious thing in the castle, a brass warming pan. It looks like a large, lidded spoon, the metal beaten thin and scarred by years of use. Inside its belly glows a handful of embers, raked fresh from the kitchen hearth downstairs, the last living pieces of the day's fire. The servant moves with practiced efficiency. They peel back the heavy layers of fur and wool, exposing the defenseless linen sheets to the chill air. Then, they slide the brass pan between the layers. Listen to the sound of the metal gliding over the fabric a dry, scuffing hiss. Swish, swish. The movement is rhythmic, almost hypnotic. They must keep the pan moving, never letting it rest in one spot for too long, lest the heat turn destructive. As the brass passes over the linen, a faint, distinct smell rises into the air. It is the scent of singed fabric not burnt, but toasted. It is a dry, clean smell, mixing with the faint sulfur of the coals and the wood smoke clinging to the metal. This is the ritual of scalding the bed. The goal is not just to warm the sheets, but to drive out the dampness that has settled there during the long, gray day. You can see the steam rising in thin wisps, ghost-like as the moisture is baked away. Sometimes, if the night is particularly cruel, there are other helpers. Perhaps a smooth river stone, heated near the fire until it is almost too hot to touch, has been wrapped in a thick piece of flannel. It is placed at the foot of the bed, a dense, radiant heart of warmth waiting for your frozen feet. Or maybe a canvas bag filled with sand, baked in the oven after the bread was drawn, sits heavily in the center of the mattress. These are the batteries of the medieval night, dense objects holding on to their heat with a stubborn refusal to let go. But you know, as you watch the servant withdraw the pan and smooth the covers back down, that this warmth is fleeting dot, it is a borrowed comfort. The stone walls of the room are already working to steal it back. The air is hungry. The moment the heat source is removed, the countdown begins. The warmth trapped in the linen is fragile. It will last for 10 minutes, perhaps 20 dot, so you must move now. There is a quiet urgency to this moment. You extinguish the candle, plunging the room into absolute blackness. You slide quickly into the space the brass pan has just vacated. The sensation is shocking in its delight. The sheets are hot, dry, and welcoming. You stretch your legs down, finding the hot stone at the bottom, and a shiver of relief runs through you. You are racing the cold. You must settle, find your stillness, and let sleep take you before the heat fades. For now, in these first few minutes, you are victorious. The artificial heat holds the fortress of the bed. You are suspended in a pocket of summer, created by fire and brass, while the winter waits patiently, just outside the curtains, for its turn to return. As the artificial heat of the brass pan begins to drift away, fading like a dying echo into the vastness of the room, you realize that the passive warmth of stones and sand is not enough to hold back the deep winter. You need a heat that renews itself, a heat that breathes. You are entering the era of the living radiator dot in the stark mathematics of a medieval winter. Solitude is dangerous. To sleep alone is to fight a losing battle against the air. And so, the strict boundaries of the day, the rigid lines between master and servant, between human and animal, begin to blur in the dark. The bed becomes a lifeboat, and warmth is the only currency that matters. If you were in a cottage in the village below, the sleeping arrangement would be a sprawling tangle of humanity. A human knot, they call it parents, children, and elders huddled together under a single rough blanket. sharing the localized climate of their combined bodies. But here, in the high solitary splendor of the castle chamber, the strategy is more refined, yet no less primal. You might feel a subtle weight settle at the very foot of the bed, just beyond the heavy velvet of the coverlet. It is a servant, perhaps a young page or a trusted handmaid, sleeping on a trundle or a pallet right against the wood of your bed frame. They are the guardians of the draft, their bodies acting as a human draft excluder, absorbing the chill that creeps along the floorboards before it can reach you. It is a silent, unspoken pact of survival, proximity for protection. But on a night like this, a night where the frost forms patterns on the inside of the glass, you require the ultimate engine of warmth. You require the three-dog night. Whistle softly into the shadows. You hear the click of heavy claws on the flagstones, a slow, confident rhythm approaching from the corner near the hearth. Then comes the soft, heavy thud of paws against the side of the mattress. The bed groans slightly under the new weight. A massive shape looms in the darkness. A Scottish deerhound, perhaps, or a broad-chested mastiff. These are not the small, nervous pets of the modern parlor. These are working animals, creatures of muscle and density, built to withstand the hunt and the storm. Encourage him up. The animal circles once, twice, kneading the fur coverlet with heavy paws, before collapsing with a contented, heavy sigh against your legs. The sensation is immediately grounding. The heat radiating from a large dog is different from the heat of a stone or a fire. It is active. It is aggressive. A dog's body temperature runs higher than a human's, burning at a steady, furnace-like degree. When that massive flank presses against your cold feet through the linen and the wool, the transfer of energy is almost instant. You are now anchored by a living weight. There is a specific, sensory landscape to sleeping with these beasts. In the modern world, we might recoil at the lack of sterility, but here, in the cold dark, the smell of the animal is a comfort. It smells of wet fur, of deep earth, of pine needles crushed underfoot in the forest. It is a musk that speaks of vitality. It reminds you that life continues, strong and hot, even when the world is frozen. And then, there is the sound. Lie still and listen. The wind is still howling outside the arrow slits. A chaotic, lonely sound. But right here, pressed against your side, is a rhythmic, steady counterpoint. Asterisk, ha. H, H, U. H, ha, dot, asterisk. The deep, resonant breathing of the dog travels through the mattress. It is a metronome of peace. The animal is not worried about the past. It is not planning for the future. It is entirely present, entirely at rest. As you feel that slow expansion and contraction against your legs, your own breathing begins to synchronize with it. You cannot help it. The slow, tidal rhythm of the animal pulls you down into a slower state of being. On the very coldest nights, you might call up a second dog to curl against the curve of your back, and perhaps a third to lie across the foot of the bed. This is the literal three-dog night, a measurement of temperature by the number of animals, required to keep you alive till dawn, buried beneath the linen, the wool, the fur, and now surrounded by the living heat of the pack. You are untouchable. You are part of a warm, breathing organism. The castle walls may be stone, and the air may be ice. But here in the center of the bed, you are held in the embrace of a primitive, unwavering loyalty. The dog sighs again, a long, grumbling exhalation of pure comfort, and twitches in its sleep, perhaps chasing a phantom stag through a dream of summer. You are safe. The heat is steady. The guard is asleep, but the furnace is burning. Close your eyes and let the heavy, rhythmic warmth drag you down into the dark. Cup your hands around the heavy earthenware goblet and feel the heat radiating through the ceramic. For you are about to stoke the most vital furnace of all, the one that burns inside your own chest, while the stone walls, The heavy tapestries and the living warmth of the hounds protect you from the outside. They can do nothing for the cold that blooms from within. You live in an age where medicine is a philosophy of balance, a constant negotiation with the elements. You understand your body, not as a collection of organs and cells, but as a vessel of shifting fluids, the humors. Winter is the season of the phlegmatic. It is cold and wet, a time when the world tries to dampen your spirit and slow your blood. The physicians whisper that sleep is a dangerous time, a time when the body cools naturally, drifting perilously close to the temperature of the grave. To sleep safely, you must counteract the season. You must consume things that are hot and dry. You must build a fire in your belly to last the long, dark crossing of the night. Lift the goblet to your lips. The steam that rises from it carries the sharp, intoxicating scent of hippocras. This is not merely wine. It is a medical potion. It is a deep, dark red vintage, heavily sweetened with sugar or honey, but the true power lies in the grit at the bottom of the cup. It has been infused with the most expensive treasures of the East cinnamon, ginger, grains of paradise, and cloves. Take a sip, Dot. Feel the shock of it. It is sweet, yes, but underneath the sugar is a burn that has nothing to do with temperature. The spices bite the tongue. As you swallow, you can trace the path of the liquid moving down your throat, a slow-moving river of heat. It settles in your stomach, and almost immediately, you feel a flush rising to your cheeks. This is the internal fire taking hold. You are correcting the imbalance. You are drying out the dampness of the winter. For those who do not have the coin for imported spices, there is the posset. Imagine a bowl of hot milk, curdled with hot ale or sack, thickened with breadcrumbs, and spiced with nutmeg. It is a heavy, thick drink, almost a meal in itself, Dot. It is not designed to be light. In this era, you do not fear heaviness before bed. You crave it. A light stomach is a fire with no wood. You need fuel. You need dense, slow-burning energy that will digest over the course of 8 hours, releasing a steady trickle of warmth into your limbs while you dream. You might eat a small bowl of pottage, a thick porridge of oats or barley, right before the candle is snubbed. It sits heavy in you, a solid anchor against the drift of the night. There is a profound comfort in this fullness. It is the feeling of being fortified. You have insulated the walls. You have wrapped the body, and now you have stoked the engine. But as you set the empty cup on the bedside chest, a different kind of chill brushes the back of your neck. It is the fear of the invisible. Glance toward the window. It is shuttered tight, the heavy wood barred and draped with wool. This is not just to keep out the wind. It is to keep out the night air. To you, the air of the night is not the same as the air of the day. When the sun sets, the air changes. It becomes miasmic. It rises from the marshes and the moors, carrying with it the invisible seeds of fever and ague. It is a prowling thing, seeking an open mouth or an unguarded ear. You have been taught that a draft is not just uncomfortable. It is malicious, Dot, and so, the final act of warming is an act of spiritual sealing. You fold your hands. The words you whisper are old, worn smooth by centuries of repetition. You pray to St. Christopher to protect you from sudden death while you sleep. You pray to the angels to stand at the four corners of your bed. Asterisk Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Bless the bed that I lie on. Asterisk. This prayer is a psychological blanket. It creates a boundary that the night air cannot cross. It quiets the mind, which, if left anxious, would agitate the blood and cool the heart. Peace, after all, is a kind of warmth. The ritual is complete. The spices of the hippocras are humming in your blood. The heavy wool presses you down. The dogs are asleep. The fire in the hearth has become a bed of glowing eyes. Watching over the room, you feel a heaviness pulling at your eyelids, a narcotic pull that is irresistible. The world of the castle, the politics, the wars, the harvest, the mud has dissolved. There is no outside anymore. There is only this warm, dark capsule. You are an ember wrapped in ash, glowing quietly, safe until the morning bells ring. Let go. Drift deep into the velvet heavy dark. And you might believe that the night is a single, unbroken ocean of time. But here, in the ancient rhythm of the castle, sleep is a journey taken in two distinct voyages. You have been asleep for perhaps 4 hours. The castle has settled around you. The dogs at your feet have stopped twitching and are now breathing in a slow, deep unison that vibrates through the mattress. Suddenly, without a sound to wake you, your eyes open. You are not alarmed. This is not the jagged insomnia of the modern world, filled with anxiety and the blue light of clocks. This is the natural order of things. This is the end of the first sleep, the primo sonno. For the people of this time, the night is segmented. It is broken in two by a period of wakefulness that belongs entirely to the darkness. Lie there for a moment and feel the quality of this silence. It is heavier than the silence of the day. It is absolute. There is no hum of electricity, no distant roar of traffic, only the wind shifting against the stone and the settling of the great oak beams above you dot in this hour of wakefulness. Between midnight and the small hours, the world feels suspended. It is a time used for quiet things. In the village below, a mother might be nursing an infant. In the monastery down the valley, monks are rising for matins, their chants drifting like smoke into the cold air. But here, in your chamber, it is a time for thinking thoughts that are too fragile for the harsh light of day. It is a time to lie in the warmth you have created and simply exist. But there is a duty that calls you from the feathers, the fire. Your only son in this stone universe is dying. If you do nothing, the morning will bring a cold so profound it will feel like violence. And so, you must perform the night's most crucial ritual. You slide one arm out from the heavy pile of furs. The air strikes your skin instantly, a physical reminder of the enemy waiting in the room. You move quickly. You do not leave the bed fully. You lean out, reaching for the iron poker that rests on the hearthstone. The fire is a heap of gray ash, looking for all the world like it has gone out. But you know better. You scrape the ash aside, digging into the center of the pile, and there, buried deep like a secret, is the dull, blood-red glow of the seed coals. They are faintly pulsing, holding on to life. You take a fresh log-dry, seasoned oak and place it carefully atop the embers. You do not want a roaring blaze that will burn out in an hour. You want a slow, stubborn burn. You bank the ash up around the wood, burying it, insulating it, forcing it to smolder. You are feeding a living thing, coaxing it to survive the night so that it might serve you in the morning. The smell of the disturbed ash rises dry, dusty, and sharp. It smells of old forests in time. Satisfied, you pull your arm back into the sanctuary of the bed. You wrap the furs tight around your shoulders, shivering once, twice, until the heat of the three-dog night and the wool blankets reclaims you. Now begins the second sleep. This is a different kind of rest. It is deeper, richer, a descent into a heavy, dreamless state. The body, having checked its environment and secured its warmth, finally surrenders completely. You drift away, carried on the current of the night, unaware of the hours passing, unaware of the frost that is silently working its artistry in the dark. And then, the gray light comes. It is not a burst of sun, but a slow, reluctant lifting of the shadows. You open your eyes to the morning. The room is filled with a pale blue stillness. You lie there, warm and heavy, unwilling to move, and you look around the chamber. The fire you tended in the night is sending up a thin, lazy curl of smoke. It has done its work. It has kept the air moving, just enough to keep the room alive. But looking toward the window, and even closer to the bed itself, you see the true power of the winter. The cold has found its way in. It has bypassed the shutters, slipped through the invisible cracks in the masonry, and decorated the room. There, on the heavy wool curtains of your bed, is a dusting of white. The moisture from your own breath, exhaled during the night, has frozen. Tiny, glittering crystals of ice cling to the fabric, sparkling in the dim light like diamond dust. You look to the wooden washstand in the corner. The water in the basin, poured fresh the night before, is no longer liquid. It is a solid block of ice, cracked through the middle. The towel hanging beside it is stiff as a bored dot. It is a beautiful, eerie sight. To wake up and find the winter inside your room, to see the evidence of freezing temperatures just inches from where you lay, brings a sudden, sharp realization. You realize what a fortress this bed truly is. You realize the sheer, stubborn resilience required to exist in this time. Every night is a siege. Every sleep is a battle against the elements. The stone walls, for all their thickness, could not stop the cold. The fire, for all your tending, could not heat the whole room. It was the layers, the linen, the wool, the fur, the coif, the dogs, the hot wine, and the human will that brought you through. You lie there for one last moment, looking at the frozen breath on the curtains, feeling the warmth of your own skin. You are a small, victorious spark in a frozen world. The past was hard. It was a life of drafts and smoke and ice. But as you close your eyes one last time, letting the image of the frost fade, remember this: the night is over. The sun is rising. The fire is waiting to be stirred. You do not have to fight the cold anymore. That battle was fought by others, centuries ago, in stone rooms just like this one. They endured the segmented night so that you could know the comfort of a seamless one. They survived the ice so that you could be warm. The history is written. The castle is silent. The winter is past. You can rest now. The last embers in the great hearth are finally fading to gray ash. The stone walls, once so formidable and cold, are receding into the mist of time. Come back to where you are right now. Feel the softness beneath you, the gentle warmth of your room, a luxury that even the kings and queens of old could hardly imagine. You are safe here. You are sheltered from the biting wind. It is a marvel, really, how they endured. They slept through the smoke, the ice, and the profound darkness, carrying the resilience of the human spirit through every long winter night. That same quiet strength resides in you. But your battle for the day is done. You have earned this comfort. If you found a moment of peace in these old, cold corridors, please gently press the like button or subscribe so we may walk through history's quiet corners again. If your mind is still drifting, anchor it by leaving this affirmation in the comments. I am warm, I am safe, and I am at rest. The castle is quiet now. The heavy wooden doors are barred against the storm. The fire is banked. History has gone to sleep, and so can you. The past is gone, and so are today's worries. Sweet dreams.